Today, I will be giving you 6 tips to take your geoguessing skills from beginner all the way to pro.
Welcome to the OpenGuessr channel, everyone. My name is IC3P, and let's start off with the foundations and work our way up to some of the more pro level tips. The most essential thing you can learn is which countries are even in the game. All of these geography-based games like OpenGuessr and GeoGuessr all use Google Street View. The unfortunate thing about this is that Google has not driven all over the world. For example, a lot of African countries are not covered at all. So if you're guessing in the middle of Chad, you are really not giving yourself a chance, since it is not possible for a round to even be there. I recommend popping over to this website right here called SV Map. It is linked down below in the description if you want to take a look yourself. Now, by default, official coverage should be checked, but if it's not, come over here and make sure it's checked, because anything that's unofficial will not be in the game. And now just take a look at the map. All of the blue lines that you see is where the Google car has driven around. Notice Africa especially, there is really just not much coverage here at all. Turning off the map itself, you can kind of see a general landscape of where everything is. You can see Europe here is pretty blue. This is where Google has driven by far the most. And you can get very detailed and go into each country individually. As you can see from Australia, there is not a single bit of coverage in this entire region in the west central area, and the major amount of coverage is definitely concentrated on the south and east coast. If you know where coverage is and isn't, it makes modes like Country Guesser very easy, because if you look down here, Marshall Islands, Vietnam, British Virgin Islands, and Ethiopia all don't have coverage, which means this is going to either be India or Mongolia, and that can make things very easy for you. You can go into so much more detail on a country by country basis. I'll let you explore that on your own. The second tip today is going to be language recognition. Now, this does not mean you need to actually be able to read or even speak the language. It just means that you should be able to look at a sign and be able to recognize what language it is. Now, this is especially important in Europe, where there are so many different languages that just have some slight differences. This also applies to different language structures. For example, Latin, Arabic, Bengali, or Khmer, which is commonly spoken in Cambodia, all use different letters. So to be able to recognize these letters is definitely worth the time, even if you have no idea what it even means. Number 3, we have driving direction, which is incredibly important. It's worth taking a look at the cars around you or the Google car itself. Unless you're in a very rural area, you should be able to figure out what side of the road that you're driving on. Now, there are many countries that drive on the right side of the road, but there are plenty that also drive on the left. This can really narrow down the possibility of where you can be. Some common toss-ups are the UK and Ireland, which both drive on the left side of the road, but countries that can often look similar, like France, Belgium, or the Netherlands, all drive on the right. Japan drives on the left. However, South Korea and Taiwan both drive on the right. If you are a pro player, you definitely know which country drives on what side of the road, and there will be a nice guide in the description to help you memorize all this. The fourth tip, it's something that most people don't even notice, and that is bollards. These are sticks that are on the side of the road that most people drive by on a daily basis, but just don't notice. Almost every country uses a unique bollard, which makes them very important to learn. Here are some of the best ones to learn in my opinion. The first and maybe most iconic is the French bollard. Now, these can come in a few different colors, but this is definitely the most common, with a large cylindrical base with a pointy top. The band is also red. Now, as you just saw, they normally have a red band, but it's not too rare to find one of these that has a gray band either. Now, make sure to be careful, because there are similar bollards that look like that in Scotland, but notice that they are kind of like ribbed and don't have a pointy top, so they are a little bit different. The Australian bollard is extremely iconic and features a white stick with a red section near the middle. The back of the bollard can sometimes feature a gray rectangle. Now, notice how the red is only in the middle of this bollard and there are white on the edges. Now, take a look at this bollard. Looks very similar. However, take a look at the edges. The red goes all the way to the end. This is a New Zealand bollard, and yes, it sometimes does have some yellow on it as well. If you can memorize these two bollards, you should be able to tell these two countries apart, because they love to use a ton of bollards everywhere. Of course, there are so many bollards out there, and some of them do have exceptions, so I could really go into a whole video on those just by itself. If there is one thing that pro geoguessing players really love, it's poles. Poles are truly one of the best things to learn if you are trying to elevate your game from beginner to pro. Not only are they almost everywhere, but they are usually very reliable, as you won't see a random rogue pole somewhere where it's not supposed to be. Now let's go back to Australia because they have some iconic poles. The first one being this Stobie pole, which is found pretty much exclusively in the state of South Australia. And these rusty metal poles right here with some holes in the middle are found pretty much only in the Northern Territory, with a few popping up in Western Australia near the border. Now here we have the iconic Brazilian ladder pole, which is called that because it kind of looks like a ladder. This is such a good tip for identifying Brazil that it's almost overpowered because it appears everywhere. Again, there are just so many more poles out there. Links in the description for some resources so you can memorize a bit more of them. If there is one thing pro GeoGuessr players love more than poles, it would be pole tops. And this is truly a pro level tip because even among the pro players, not all of them have memorized some of these tops. This one right here is extremely famous. This is the Sabah pole top, which features these two parallel bars that run along. And yeah, these things are found pretty much exclusively in the Sabah province of Malaysia. But not all pole tops are very obvious. Japan is a country that is notorious for its pole tops. Take a look at these two pole tops right here and tell me where they're found. Kind of difficult, isn't it? Well, the highest level players have found methods for both of these. If you look at these extensions right here, you'll notice that the one on the right is at a 90-degree angle to the pole above it, whereas this one is at more of a 120-degree angle pointing downwards. Now, this may not seem like a big difference, but the 90-degree one on the right is found on Shikoku Island, and the 120-degree one is found in Kansai. And those were just two of the poles in Japan, where there are potentially hundreds of different combinations of poles that the highest level players have learned. And I only talked about Japan and Malaysia. Imagine all of the ones that are all over the world. There's a lot.
And those are 6 tips to take your geoguessing skills to the next level and become a pro. Make sure to leave a like on this video if you learned something new. And there are a ton of extremely useful resources down in the description, so make sure to go take a look if you want to research more about what we talked about in this video. And thank you so much for watching, everyone. I will see you in the next one.